isn't the only one running downfield, I guess is my point. So
That's a good point. For the Ravens, there's a couple players I want to talk about on their team, and the first one's going to be Justin Forsett. And I want to feed you guys some information slowly, not to trip you up, but just to see, what you think when you're given additional information. So the first thing you need to know is he had 279 touches last season, 1,529 yards of total from scrimmage offense, 8 TDs. Keep him or forget him?
Keep him. I think he's done well enough to warrant at least a second season. Because, this year, everything that happened in the beginning of the year and getting thrown into the mix and becoming from, a potential number 2 guy sharing the load with, with the other running backs on the team, to all of a sudden, Ray Rice gone, and now you have him being the number 1 guy. And I think he handled it well, and I think he's definitely earned at least a second season being the man to see what he will do with the role.
Keith.
He led the league in breakaway percentage. So he had the highest percentage of runs of 15 or more yards. Absolutely, you keep him. DeMarco Murray led the league with 27 runs of 15 yards or more. Second place there was a 3-way tie. Forsett, Eddie Lacy, LaShawn McCoy. Arian Foster had 16, and it goes down from there. You absolutely keep him.
Would it change either of your minds if you were to learn that Justin Forsett is 29 years old?
No. Because he was a backup for most of that. The tread's still fresh.
That's a good point. And basically last season, in one season, Justin Forsett had almost half of his entire career's production last season. I thought that was an amazing, amazing statistic.
He is the new Michael Turner. You can get a couple more years after 30 with him.
See, I was going to say he was the next Fred Jackson, but it's in the same kind of boat.
Yep.
Okay. This player, I was really surprised that the Ravens even allowed to get to free agency, and that's Torrey Smith. Keep him or forget him?
Oh, you got to keep him. Even though he's been one of the most frustrating fantasy football players that I've ever owned on my team, because 1 week he'll get you 1,000,000 points, and in the next 3 he won't get 1. He's the deep threat. He's a reliable receiver. I know he's one of the vocal leaders on the team. I just think it would be wrong to get rid of him. He just seems like a good fit, especially with Flacco. They have a good rapport.
I think you have to keep him because we keep waiting for Steve Smith. Is Steve Smith coming back? Was that a 1-year deal he signed last year?
It was it was at least 2 year. He actually does have a salary counting against the cap.
Okay, so he'll be on the roster. You don't know what's going to happen with Steve Smith, whether Father Time catches up and he gets injured this year or whatnot. Yeah, he's given us no reason to believe that it will happen this year, but you need a backup plan. You got to keep Torrey Smith in the fold.
Steve Smith is going to count $4.2 million against the salary cap. If they were to release him, their savings would only be $1.8 million.
Huh.
So I think you keep Steve Smith another year. You look like you still had plenty of gas in the tank.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then Torrey Smith, give it a go. Maybe place the tag on him or make him put the tag on him where he's restricted and they'll be able to match any offer sheet. Do you think that's the best approach?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
But Torrey Smith was not involved much at all.
He was a TD demon. He had 49 receptions last year, 767 yards, not very impressive, but 11 touchdowns.
Yeah. Only targeted 89 times. That was 50th in the league.
Wow, that's pretty poor. Yeah. But that offense was really strange. I'm not so sure that Gary Kubiak had an opportunity to fully implement his offense, or it just was an offense that didn't fit their personnel.
Well, and they ran the ball really well with Forsett.
They totally did. But they didn't have I wouldn't describe either Torrey Smith or Steve Smith as sort of the big body target that, let's say, Andre Johnson was when Kubiak was with the Texans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Steve, this is for you primarily. We're going to talk about some Colts players here and see what you think. Ahmad Bradshaw, keep him or forget him?
See, Ahmad Bradshaw is an interesting one because he's getting into the age discussion, and he's getting into the he's only 28, which is still old for a running back, but he's had the injury issues.
29 in March, by the way.
And I mean, right now he's rehabbing that injury that ended his season. So to me, I would say kick him to the curb.
Really?
I do. Okay. I think they need to find a young stud running back that can grow along with Andrew Luck. And Bradshaw, as talented as he is, I think he's coming to the end of his career, and I don't think he's the answer in Indy.
Keith?
Trent Richardson had a higher breakaway percent than Ahmad Bradshaw. You got Boom Herron, you're good. You let him go.
Okay. I know we're starting to run out of some time here. How much time we got left, Keith?
8 minutes.
8 minutes. All right. So let me jump around a little bit. Let's see. Eagles. Jeremy Maclin. 85 receptions, 1,318 yards, 10 TDs. You keep him or forget him?
I'd say keep him.
Yeah, you absolutely keep him. You do not let him hit the market.
Does it matter to your guys that he's 26, he'll be 27 by the time next season starts?
Not in a receiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he could always become one of the slot receivers, kind of like an Edelman, which you can have a great career with that.
Do you think Chip Kelly's offense is so diverse, so flexible, that they could basically take any receiver, put him in Macklin's place, and they'll flourish just like he did in Deshaun Jackson before him?
The Philadelphia offense gets a lot of kudos for being flash and dash, but they're mostly a running offense. Let's not forget that too. But Maclin stepped into that X role that was vacated by Deshaun Jackson, 15th in yards per pass route run. He answered the bell. 140 targets last year.
Okay. And unlike the Patriots, who can kind of pick different receivers and put them into places, they have a solid Hall of Fame quarterback to where, with the Eagles, you don't have that. So it's going to be tougher with some of these younger quarterbacks, or even like a Sanchez, which I don't think is going to stay. But say Nick Foles, I think you need to keep players with him that he knows and that he's comfortable with. I think if you keep interchanging, it's just going to make things worse.
Keith, for the Bears, Brandon Marshall. He's not a free agent, but he's a person that potentially maybe the Bears want to go in a different direction. Keep him or forget him?
Well, you look at that offense, you look at the wide receiver talent that they have. Alshon Jeffrey is another tall receiver with great hands, but Alshon Jeffrey does not have the breakaway speed that Brandon Marshall has to be the X. Alshon Jeffrey is a tall Elvin Harper. He's very good. He complements Marshall in a balanced offense well, but on the field, you really need somebody with Marshall's skill set to separate from the defense. Marcus Wilson isn't it. There really isn't anybody on unless they find somebody in free agency or the draft. Right that offense sits right now, you need Brandon Marshall. If you're John Fox, you are not wanting to deal with Brandon Marshall in the locker room. That's the only question mark here. If Fox has a conversation with Brandon Marshall and everything's all hunky dory and it's a love fest over there, and Marshall falls into line, it's a big if. He was a good citizen 2 seasons ago. Last season, everything fell apart, and I think that had a lot more to do with Trestman's regime and how they control the locker room and everything like that. I don't think you'll see a repeat of that with John Fox. So I say you keep him.
Steve.
I'm going to say you keep him as well, and primarily for me, if you're going to be saddled with Jay Cutler, you need to keep his guy. Because if you're going to want to try to get everything out of him, I think getting rid of Marshall is not the way to do it. So, to me, if they're going to keep Cutler, I would keep Marshall. If they get rid of Cutler, then there's going to be more of a debate on if you're going to keep Marshall or not. Because if you're going to clean house, I would get rid of both of them. Yeah. But if you're going to keep Cutler, I think you definitely have to keep Marshall.
Yeah. If you're going to keep Cutler, then it's pretty clear it's a total teardown. So you might as well just trade all your assets and get as many draft picks as you can.
Brandon Marshall is guaranteed $7.5 million. If they were to cut with bonuses, if they were to cut him, there would be $5.6 million in dead money, and their cap savings would be only 3.95. So I think it's pretty close call financially what you do with Brandon Marshall. And me personally, I think the Bears should keep him at least one more season. Keith, how much time do we have left?
4.5 minutes, about 4 minutes.
All right.
4 minutes. We'll call
All right. So let's hit a few more players. 49ers, Frank Gore, keep him or forget him.
He is expendable. He is on the wrong side of 30, and Carlos Hyde showed he can run in the NFL.
Steve.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree, and I like Frank Gore, but I think it's not the right situation for him with his age, and a lot of it's going to depend on what happens with the new coaching staff. If they're gonna just fully support a passing game, or if they're going to get Kaepernick and make him be the real rushing threat. I just don't know if Frank Gore is going to be what they need right now.
I'll point out that Frank Gore had 266 touches for 1,217 yards and 5 TDs last season. That was a drop-off from 10 TDs to 5 TDs in one season. Relatively speaking, he's been healthy the last 4. So, I absolutely agree with what you guys have said, but I think if Jim Harbaugh was still head coach, he would probably be keeping Frank Gore around because they were doing a masterful job at keeping him healthy by limiting his touches. But I agree with you guys. I think it's time for them to move on. Should they move on from Michael Crabtree or Vernon Davis?
I think Crabtree, yes.
I would agree. Crabtree, yes. Davis, no.
Why Vernon Davis? I mean, he was very ineffective last season.
He was hurt a lot, too, and that may be Father Time catching up to him.
But not only that, it just doesn't seem like they utilize him enough. They get away from him a lot. And one thing that's been proven with top tight ends in this league is you just got to keep going to him. And he's the fastest receiver on their team at a massive tight end, and he is definitely one of the most talented in the league. So I think it would be crazy to go away from him.
He's not a secret anymore. I mean, he came into the league and he was a bust after he got drafted. And then Jim Harbaugh found a way to get the best out of him and make him a star. And then defenses all of a sudden had to pay attention to him. So it wasn't as tricky. And there was a lot of issues with the San Francisco offense last year.
Well, and also I think the offense has to use him a little more like Gronkowski, which what they're doing in San Francisco is they're sending him on deep routes, which he can run, but I think he needs to do more of the 5 to 10 yard routes because he's a big guy and he's got great hands, and I think they need to use him a little more like that.
Guys, I think we have time for one more.
Yeah, I got about a minute and a half.
All right. So what do you think about the Saints' Mark Ingram? 25 years old. He had 255 touches for slightly better than 1,100 all-purpose yards and 9 TDs. Should the Saints keep him or forget him? And what do you think?
You got like 106 running backs in New Orleans. You can just let him go.
See, I would keep Ingram. I like Ingram. I think he's a solid back. I would hold on to him.
With Kyrie Robinson, I think he's expendable.
So you think if let's say they tender him as a restricted on a restricted basis in terms of the franchise tag, that they see what the offer sheet comes back in and then decide, or no, just let him go?
Well, if you can get him back at the right price, then by all means, why break continuity? But if the price tag's too high, you'd be all right without him.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for the show. For everyone out there, thank you for joining us on the FantasyGreek.com's NFL Power Hour. I'm Jim Saranteas for the FantasyGreek.com, and for Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor, You can catch us on Monday nights on 87 Sports Fans, where the tables are turned. I'm the guest and the gentlemen are the hosts. And then you can catch us every Wednesday night right here on the FantasyGreek.com Superpower Hour. I'm Jim Saranteas. Good night